Let's change the hiring process. I recently had the joy of applying to over 1,100 jobs in the recent job market, and the delight of filling out forms after applications and creating logins and passwords and just waiting for months on end to get an auto response rejecting due to the volume of applicants. And so I wanted to dig in as a solution specialist to figure out what we could do about this process, how we could improve it for now, and what the future of the hiring process would look like. So for fun, I asked one of the AI tools that I use, what would a resume look like 100 years in the future? And this is what it came up with. So you have to authenticate your neural biometric signature in order to access. And this is the Nova 7 interface. You have all your cognitive spectrum analysis. You have your experience timeline. You have a skills synthesis matrix and global contributions. It looks like I've contributed to 37 planetary systems. And there's an activate hologram button. Why not? So that's a lot of fun to think about what the future of resumes would look like when it's 100 years, but let's talk about what we could do right now to improve the process within the next couple of years. And we need to identify where the most pressing problems are in the marketplace right now. So when we look at this whole series of options, I think the majority of where people's complaints are at the non-human side of things, where it's when people identify the need and create a job description, they're interviewing internally and then they're writing out the process. And usually it's people who don't have the technical skills or backgrounds writing the job descriptions, checking with the hiring managers to make sure that they're correct, and then posting online. And we all know that certain jobs out there have requested things that don't make any sense for the people that are applying. But the real crux of the matter is finding the talent and screening and shortlisting the applicants, right? Because this is where I see most people complaining and having a hard time with just the applying process and getting screened out. And this is where a lot of AI tools have popped up in helping fill out online form applications, allowing people to increase the volume that they can apply to with ease. But then there's also other apps that allow you to rewrite your resume per application so that it's a better fit. And on the hiring side, people have found that they're just getting inundated with tons of applicants, and the resumes are becoming more and more similar as more people use AI to customize it so that it fits that particular job post. And it's getting harder and harder to screen out applicants because there's the huge amount of volume. They all look the same. And it's very hard to figure out the nuanced differences that you would want in making a hiring process. So let's take a look at what the problems are that we could solve, right? So we have increased volume. We have the fact that resumes haven't really changed over the last 50 years. When it used to be a piece of paper that you would hand into a specific office, now it's a PDF where you hand into a specific office. And it's not that much different, right? And they're only limited to your past experiences. They don't really show how well you'll do in the future. And we all know that technology and what we do today is dynamically evolving, and we have to show learning and growth, right? There's no proof of future performance, right? And one of the other things is that a lot of people fail to demonstrate results. I've worked as a marketing operations manager, so it's always about finding ways of measuring success and optimizing different workflows and finding the metrics that matter the most based on the role. And this could be quite hard if you don't have tangible numbers associated with your role like a salesperson would versus a technical writer. And then it's very easy for people to lie in resumes, even intentionally or misintentionally if they're using AI. There are ways of getting certifications and proof to kind of validate it, but again, it's really hard to validate until you actually get to the interview stage or even in person when you're on the job. Another thing is that the actual documents that we're using, applicant tracking systems or ATS, have a poor time tracking keywords and phrases, and we're just using the same documents like PDFs and Word docs instead of using a format that would be so easy for these machines to parse correctly so that it's easy to scan the thousands of applicants, right? I've heard of job openings getting 500 applicants per day, just to give you a volume. And a lot of times these recruiters are scanning them manually for keywords. So you can imagine it's quite easy to filter out people that would be qualified just because they didn't see the right keyword, because they're spending less than 10 seconds on each resume, if that. And then the hard things that have always been is that it's hard to demonstrate your soft skills, your ability to lead. And we all know soft skills outweigh hard skills 10 to 1 when it comes to be able to do a job and dynamically adapt, right? Another thing is that it's very hard for people to show translatable skill sets, right? So when you're looking at specific keywords, you might have a different lingo or jargon that you use that would have been perfectly acceptable for a role. It's just that the keywords got filtered out. So now that we have an overview of the problems, let's look about like what the solutions could be. Um, One of the things that we need to focus on is that we have to switch from a small volume to a large volume system. So when we're looking at solutions, we always have to keep in mind that the cost of implementing a technical solution might outweigh the volume that you need. But right now we can see that we have a clear volume problems and the tools are not equipped to handle applicants at that size because we're still manually looking through them. So we have to have something that does a large data processing and allow people to look at large data sets and interpret them correctly, right? This is done all over in different areas of business, and it just has to apply to resumes as well so that people can get to the nuanced answers that they're looking for, right? Another thing is that with today's day and age, technology advancing so much, we have to start connecting things to what we're learning on a day-to-day basis and show growth and progress so that we can have predictors of future success, right? Just think of every college student who's graduating. They have a ton of knowledge. They don't have a ton of experience. And if resumes reflected what their future capabilities were based on like their rate of growth and their ability to learn new concepts and things like that, then hiring would be much more easier to bet on the people that are able to demonstrate how fast they can learn and adapt, right? LinkedIn just posted that adaptability, the ability to show that you can learn and adapt, is the top third sought after skill right now. Another one is to create a file format that makes everything super consistent so you never have to be worried about getting filtered out of an applicant tracking system, right? And it makes the applicant process a lot easier because you already have all the data and it's being read correctly into the system so that we can just skip all these forms and be able to just place the file into the system. Another one is to pull out the skills based on a dynamic resume. So when you think about updating a resume, it usually happens when you're leaving a job and you're searching for a new one. And you have this whole time frame that you've been working for maybe 2 to 6 years at a company, and you never thought about updating your resume during that time because you're busy working. So one of the things that we need to think about is how do we get this data dynamically so that your resume is always up to date. It's always keeping track of what new skills that you have so that when you're ready to shift jobs, you don't have to do any work. And another one that we need to solve is the capturing the communication and style of the problem solving that people have, because those are the soft skills that really matter. So now we have an overview of what the solutions need to be. Let's go look at a process of what could potentially be this. And I think that a dynamic resume is the answer for this. And we'll take a look at that. So first, we need to figure out how to get the data in the first place, right? So if you think about where are the day-to-day activities getting stored, they're getting stored in task lists, they're getting stored in project management tools, and there could be, like if you're a developer, like GitHub, right? There's a marketplace out there where you're working on projects, you're interacting with the community, and there's comments and notes and things like that, and it kind of shows what you've done and how you've done it, right? So that's where the data is now. So we're going to take that. We always put it through a personal identification scrubber so that we're able to remove anything that might conflict with your current company's policies and privacies. With the advance of AI, we always have to be cautious about making sure what information that we're exposing. And then AI would be able to translate the tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis into skill sets. So they're pulling out specific keywords, they're creating into keyword groupings so that you could find related skill sets. And then finally, the output would be a dynamic resume, which would be the standard format of RFF, or resume formatted files. And so that's a brief overview of what the system could look like. So I think that's enough talking about the high level stuff. Let's take a look at what it actually could look like in person. So here's an example of what it could look like if you're looking at a standard project management tool set, right? So we'll zoom in here. We have either the projects, which could be individual companies, or they could be specific projects. You have your learning tabs down here, which shows your progress on online courses and shows your skill development. And then within any specific task, you have the task name, the time spent, and then you have the ability to, edit whatever the text is in there. And we all know that when we're filling out tasks, everyone does it differently. So we have AI assistants saying, okay, could you elaborate a little bit more or make assumptions based on our current tech stack so you could pull in the specific keywords that we know. So it's less about keyword stuffing and just making sure that the context is there. So this is where the source data comes in. And then once we have it, we're able to do so much more when it comes to analyzing the data. And this is where I get excited because Right now, you're looking at a text document as a hiring manager and you have to scan it manually. And nobody really enjoys that. I can't imagine. So if you have it as data, then you could do these very beautiful reports that importantly could allow you to analyze data at scale. That's why we have reports in the first place. So this is an example dashboard of what a dynamic resume could look like, right? So you can have some top metrics at the top, how many years of experience, the average speed, how well they're growing, because you could have an experienced exec who has 30 years of experience and they're just starting to slow down, right? Versus a fresh college graduate who's like on the go, learning everything. And then you're able to visualize things to make it easier, right? Report visualization is critical when you're coming from a data standpoint. So this example is showing us when this person has worked at, department level skills in their whole career. Yes, you could go into a resume and kind of look at the timeline and see when they mentioned certain skills, but at a high level, this makes it so easy to see that their marketing skills have only been used really early in the career and, back in 2015. So skill growth is another one where we can look at it and say, okay, this applicant has only 30% of what we need, but their skill growth is off the chart. And if we hire them, they would quickly adapt to any gaps in their resume for the job description so that we could get going faster, right? And then if you think about it, when companies hire, they want to hire for solutions in the future. And so people with high skill growth would be able to demonstrate that anything that's thrown their way, they'll be able to challenge it and, accomplish it. Another one is that you can get much more nuanced answers. So if you have a person A and a person B, and they both say that they have Excel as an experience, but then you can get into a nuance of like, okay, how well do you know this tool? Because everyone is marking their specific tasks that they do on a day-to-day. Person A could have 7 years of experience of formatting the text. Person B could have macros and Visual Basic coding experience and working in pivot tables and VLOOKUPs and things like that. So that you could now see that, yeah, equal number of years in Excel, but one is clearly more advanced than the other. And then one of the things that I get excited about, because who hasn't struggled with trying to figure out what they could do in their career? And one of the things that we could do when we have this data, and LinkedIn and other job platforms are able to do it, admittedly more difficult to do with the raw text because they have a lot of cleanup to do, but we could figure out where your potential growth areas are so that you could increase your value in the marketplace. So for example, we could see, how well you're growing in the technical, hard, soft skills and be conscious of that. But more importantly, we could see what's trending in the marketplace as far as demands and the impact it could have on your salary as far as skill sets. Another one is showing you how you match other related jobs, right? Because it's very difficult right now to figure out related and translatable skills. But with these broken down into correct data points, I could see that this applicant is 9% astronaut, right? And so they're like, oh, I never thought of being in a career as an astronaut. That would be super cool. Task speed, because again, we're looking at like how fast you accomplish a specific task. We could see where the areas that you're the best at as far as speed and the accuracy, and some areas that we're like, okay, maybe this is something that we want someone else to accomplish because they're just faster at it. So let's look at how this would actually apply when we're comparing it to a job posting and how it would help us. So here's a sample job, and we can see the details of the job, but where this dynamic resume really comes in, and this is just the crux of the matter, is when we're looking at individual bullet points, right now, AI could rewrite your resume to have a specific key point related to that job requirement. But with dynamic resumes, you now have the data to back it up. And we can see that it's matched with 41 different individual tasks, which anyone could look at and see the breakdown so that we could get contextual knowledge or granular knowledge about how well someone can meet each requirement as far as their past. And then when we're talking about like the future capabilities, let's say, just like most job requirements, we don't have all the skill sets that we need. We could see different potential ways of presenting that data. So for example, we could say that it might take 9 months as far as best practice. And then as an individual learner, we could say that estimated 4 weeks based on the current growth rate. We could say that, if you have a specific course connected to your resume, you could say that you're 50 we could also say that you're 56% done with learning about it and I'll finish it in 2 days based on your current growth rate. We could also see like the related skill sets that you're learning that match the job requirement. So as a whole, we're looking at a huge improvement in the ability to analyze and manage the initial part of finding talents and screening and shortlisting, because we have a standard format, so you never have to worry about getting filtered out. We have all the keyword groupings so that if you're using the wrong keyword, we have associated keywords of skills so that you get the job requirements that you need when you have translatable skills. It allows you to look at applicants at scale because now you're able to dynamically analyze it in dashboards and reports, which make it looking at large number of applicants so much easier so you're not missing out the key indicators of what would make someone a great hire. And we're also just changing the whole process where it comes with generating the resume. Instead of like a short snapshot of what you think an employer wants to see, it's a holistic background, including soft skills on what you could do for future hires. So if you like this and want to see it built, let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to solution building for new ideas. Take care.